A frame instead of reconciliation, how one family photo became a loyalty test for the king and another round of psychological ping-pong from the Sussexes. It sounds almost absurdly simple. According to Neil Sean, Harry and Meghan allegedly sent King Charles a framed photograph of Archie and Lilibet. Not a new one, not a fresh family shot, but an image already 2 years old. On the surface, an innocent gift. Beneath the surface, a trap with polished edges. Would the king place it on his desk during his Christmas or New Year's broadcast? Would this picture, quietly tucked into the background of a national address, be read as a sign of inclusion at a moment when there was no Sandringham invitation, no joint family plans, and when every whisper of warming ties seemed to evaporate against the machinery of lawsuits, press leaks, and rigid protocol? At first glance, it could pass for a gesture of affection. On closer inspection, it is an expertly constructed dilemma. If the photograph does not appear beside the king, the Sussexes can cry exclusion, we are being erased, our children are being denied, the family keeps us at arm's length. But if it does appear, another narrative ignites instantly. Our children's image was exploited in a state message, privacy has been violated, the monarchy is using our children for symbolism. Either choice cornered the king. Each outcome served the very people who engineered the fork. The entire drama is glazed with a thick sauce of old declarations about boundaries and security. For years the public has been told, not a single step without control, not a single frame without emojis over a child's face, not one candid exposure to the lens. And yet, when the need for renewed attention arises, suddenly the children become the universal passkeys into primetime, into the holiday broadcast, into debates about a cold king. This is not family history. This is a tactic. Paradoxically, Charles himself had already sidestepped this manipulative game. In recent years he deliberately removed the photo zones from his speeches, not because he stopped loving his family, but because he understood the brutal lesson of the meme age. One misplaced or misinterpreted image on a desk can drown out the king's words, turning a Christmas message into a headline war of who was pictured and who was not. He chose silence over spectacle, leaving only the text and its meaning. It is precisely what his younger son and daughter-in-law underestimate. Words carry longer than symbols, especially when the symbols are weaponized. And so, into that space of deliberate absence, the Sussexes insert a frame, a supposed key to doors that were never promised to open at the holidays. The brilliance of the trap lies in its symmetry. Silence can be spun as rejection, inclusion can be spun as exploitation. It is emotional blackmail wrapped in gilt-edged matting. The olive branch has long since been replaced by industrial olive oil. Look closely at the texture of the details. The photo was not new. Why? Because no fresh group shots exist, or because it is safer to recycle an image already vetted, cropped, filtered, and dissected 1,000 times. It is not a gift, but a control shot, a curated, staged, safe closeness. Like a clever advertising campaign, the picture is not about the moment, but about the concept. And about ensuring the concept is read exactly as intended. The starkest contrast lies in language. The king has chosen a pared-down vocabulary of images, where the weight of emotion rests not on frames on the table but on sentences in the air. The Sussexes continue to speak in thinly veiled ultimatums: either you legitimize us symbolically, or we will declare we are being erased. This is not dialogue. It is an attempt to push their script into a format that does not belong to them. The problem is that a Christmas broadcast is not a family album, it is a state ritual. And those who believe they can insert markers of personal significance into it underestimate the weight of monarchy and the instincts of the man who now embodies it. There is another layer rarely discussed: the economics of attention. A frame is a cheap media trigger set against the backdrop of expensive failures. Netflix contracts, podcast deals, tours of compassion all fade when the product underdelivers. The simplest way to spark a new wave is to place the children back into the script. Remember the rare photos of their backs, the safe outings to playgrounds, the conveniently timed images tied to launches? In this logic, the children are not characters but tokens, markers on a chart of hype. And that is the moral failure at the core: privacy treated as currency, a child used as a press release. This is why the frame strategy is both guaranteed and doomed. guaranteed to produce a short cycle of discussion, doomed to produce no real reconciliation. Because reconciliation grows from trust, and trust does not begin with take our test. It begins with refusing tests as a method. It begins with silence that holds no subtext, with meetings that are not conditional on television coverage, with gestures never intended for third-party audiences. The cruelty of this maneuver is psychological. To an aging father with a diagnosis, they send a frozen image of grandchildren like ghosts of what is slipping away. The unspoken condition: if you want new pictures, change the rules. Whether one approves or not, that is how it reads. It is not the language of reconciliation. It is the language of contracts, where one side writes conditions into the caption of a photograph. Where the words "sorry, come, let's just see each other" are replaced with "first display, then we talk." But there is another player in this game, the audience. And the audience is exhausted. Exhausted by ultimatums dressed in sentimentality. Exhausted by the endless "if not this way, we are hurt, if this way, we are hurt too." The paradox is that the most powerful act now would be to return meaning to its proper place. For the king, continue the stripped-down speeches without decorative props, continue the path of words over pictures. For the Sussexes, stop turning children into press tokens and acknowledge the simplest truth: no frame replaces a visit, no retro image replaces a conversation, no broadcast backdrop replaces the resolution of old wounds. Reconciliation is not a piece of decor or a stage prop. It is the unglamorous, unseen work of showing up. It is the courage to stop playing riddles and to say simply, "We want to come, just to be." Not to be displayed, not to be interpreted, not to be decoded, but simply to be. For that, you don't need frames. You need hands. You need doors that open without press pools, without conditions, without audience. And memory matters. Memory of how easily any image becomes a weapon in the 21st century. A frame, a photo, a desk, a speech, they are all props that can be manipulated, and thus they all become decorations rather than foundations. Trust is held by other things: phone calls, visits, agreements where no one checks the other four optics. That is why the strategy of show our children on screen and we will count it as reconciliation is doomed from the start. The king does not keep a scoreboard. He writes words. And the fewer visual footnotes attached to them, the more authentic those words sound. The ultimate irony is that silence will once again be the loudest gesture. The silence of a desk without photographs. The silence where no child becomes an argument. The silence where the only message left audible is this: if you want a relationship, stop turning it into a storyline. Leave the frame at home. It may look beautiful on a mantelpiece, but it has nothing at all to do with reconciliation.